Rudy Gobert. You can acknowledge him as a 7-time All-Defensive Player, first team in all 7 appearances, a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time All-NBA player, and a 3-time All-Star. The normal person looking at that would just call him the most decorated defensive player in the league. Others would view him as a player who must be fed the ball in order to do anything on offense. Only a 3-time All-Star despite being voted to All-NBA 4 times, and a playoff underperformer as he's only been to the conference finals once. Despite his many accomplishments in his 11-year career and essentially dominating the field, there's pushback on how impactful Gobert's defense actually is. Some NBA fans believe that Gobert isn't the best defensive big in the league. There was actually a poll created by NBA University on who the best defender in the league is, and the fans voted Bam Adebayo, in spite of Rudy Gobert just coming off another Defensive Player of the Year. In fact, if you look at the polls even further, Gobert wasn't even a finalist on the list. AD was voted as a better defender than him. And the pushback for Gobert also extends onto the players. When an anonymous player poll asked who was the most overrated player in the league, Rudy Gobert was voted as the highest player by over an eighth of the people who contributed to the votes. Even more so than this, there have been plenty of current and past players who have been vocal about Gobert's value as a player. Any active NBA fan knows that Draymond is the biggest hater of Gobert when we talk about current players, and Shaq always seems to be butthurt whenever Gobert's name is mentioned in any conversation. So this begs to ask the question, why exactly do people seem to hate Gobert and don't believe he's as good as the defender he thinks he is? In order to truly find out, we will have to evaluate these 3 specific things about Gobert: his defense compared to others in the league, his 4 Defensive Players of the Years, and his current NBA contract. Let's start off by comparing Rudy Gobert's defense to other players in the league. And in order to evaluate that, we first have to look at his role on a defense. Gobert on a team is most likely going to be your typical anchor in a defensive scheme. He's going to make it hard as hell for a team to get an easy shot around the rim. And with the caliber of defender he is, his presence in the paint ultimately prevents shots from even going up, as if you don't have a plan to beat him off the dribble, Gobert will most likely shut you down. This has been very effective for Gobert, as his teams have been at least top 10 in opposing points per game in all but 2 seasons of his career. Those 2 seasons being his first year in the league where he wasn't a starter, and his first year in Minnesota where they had to adjust to a 2-center lineup. Essentially, if you have defenders who can funnel players into the paint, then you have a decent chance of getting a stop with Gobert. But here's where we start comparing his defense to other defenders in the league. Gobert excels when it comes to guarding the paint and also roaming, but his one-on-one defense isn't quite the best among other centers. Gobert has actually improved when getting pulled out the paint, whether it's running back to a defender at the perimeter to prevent an open look, or even getting switched onto a smaller defender in a pick and roll. But you don't actually want Gobert to consistently do this on a defense. There's a reason why this clip was an iconic moment in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals last year.
Has the ball, down by 2.
There's the switch.
Gobert is out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it!
Players actually seemed inclined to draw Gobert out the paint and force him into one-on-one situations. NBA players and fans generally respect defenders who can take on the main offensive assignment and match up against other players. That's why players such as Jrue Holiday or Derek White get major props today. People respect defenders who don't shy away from the one-on-one game. When players take on an important one-on-one matchup, it's seen as stepping up to a challenge. On the flip side, when a player sticks to their defensive role outside of that, it seems like they're shying away from the challenge. Let's go back and look at the previous finalists in the poll I mentioned earlier in the video, Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis. If Rudy Gobert is an anchor big who holds down the paint, bigs such as Bam and AD are mobile bigs. While a mobile big might not be as good of a rim defender as an anchor big, they're more likely to get drawn and involved in one-on-one matchups. For example, an anchor big in a pick and roll will most likely stay in drop coverage and give an opportunity for an open shot. But the mobile big in that same situation is more likely to step up to the ball handler on a switch and start the one-on-one matchup. Mobile bigs are generally going to be better man defender who are actually capable of guarding the 1 through 5. something we hear a lot of but rarely actually see in a game. Gobert as an on-ball defender isn't as bad as people would want to make it out to believe, but there are situations where he can definitely be exploited in that position. Is that fair to him? No, especially since there's a trade-off for an anchor big compared to a mobile big. An anchor big in that situation is sacrificing a better look at the three to keep a level of presence within the paint, but the mobile big is guarding the three at the cost of a potential better look at the basket. But in today's day, people and players have an asphyxiation with the concept of versatility. A less versatile player has a more defined skill set with more notable weaknesses, while the more versatile player is more of a jack of all trades. Very good at many things, but a master of none. But due to the perceived versatility of the mobile big and the glorification of one-on-one matchups, there's a bias for the style of players compared to anchor bigs. Despite this bias though, perception doesn't align with reality, as the rewarded player, in this case Rudy Gobert, doesn't match their view of the best defender. As I have mentioned multiple times, Gobert is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, putting him in an elite category of defender. If we were to view someone with an equivalent level of MVPs, we would expect them to be some of the most elite player we have seen, and that stands true, as that list includes Wilt and LeBron James with 4 MVPs, Bill Russell and Michael Jordan with 5 MVPs, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 6. The same exact thing can be said if we extended this to offensive awards such as scoring champion. A list of players with at least 4 scoring titles would be Allen Iverson, George Gervin, and KD with 4 of those, and again Michael Jordan with 10. For these players, their success matched their accomplishments. So given that Gobert has 4 Defensive Player of the Years, people expect the same level of success as the other players listed. We all know how the saying goes about defense in the playoffs. Offense wins games, but defense wins championships. But despite being the most decorated defensive player in the past decade, this has only resulted in 1 conference finals appearance, which only occurred last year. While this isn't an indictment on Gobert's defense, other players feel like his 4 Defensive Players of the Years are undeserved. While there are many players who feel this way, the main culprit of jealousy biasing their views on Rudy Gobert would be Draymond Green. Draymond is the defensive anchor for a 4-time NBA championship team, but Draymond has only received Defensive Player of the Year once, which is most likely the unspoken source of his animosity towards Gobert. Anyone who has seen Draymond speak on Gobert knows that his statements ultimately come from a place of hate. I mean, just look at how he speaks in Gobert just with this clip alone.
How about this? We sit here breaking down Cat having to stop Joker, who's a center, and the Defensive Player of the Year is on your team and he a center. Very interesting how the cookie crumbles. It's like if Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year back then, which he did, and then they're like, but Jalen, you gotta go guard Steph. But Marcus Smart's a point guard. Marcus Smart, you won Defensive Player of the Year. You gotta guard Steph, right? Like,
you can't help yourself, huh?
I love the game within the game more than anything. When I'm watching these games, I'm watching the game within the game. And I can't help but notice, like, there's a center that won Defensive Player of the Year. And we asking Cat, go guard the center. And what Anthony Edwards has taken those guys and done is absolutely amazing. Like Rudy actually not trash anymore. He defends now, and ironically, he got all the defensive player. But I mean, like, when you see him on the switches, he's up at the level. He's not just sitting back in the drop no more. When he gets switched on to the guy, it's like his antennas pop on. He is actually impacting winning, and he's actually doing that on the defensive end, whereas opposed to other series, he's gotten played off the floor. Although Phoenix went small at times to try to get back in the game, there were times that they still played Rudy on Royce O'Neal. Before, if you win 5 guards, there was no chance Rudy Gobert can play. Like 0% chance. And if I'm honest, I don't think at this point that was a change in ability. That is a change in what's required of you.
Draymond is trying to take a jab at Gobert, implying that he can't step up to the challenge of taking on a one-on-one matchup against Jokic. Remember what I mentioned in the point earlier? Yep, it stands here. But what Draymond knows and is neglecting to note here is that the Wolves' defense is designed to let other players funnel the ball handler towards Gobert so that when they're beat, Gobert can stop them every time at the paint. The Wolves have point of attack defenders with Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker when he comes off the bench. Anthony Edwards serves as a solid perimeter defender, and the other center, whether it's Cat or Naz Reid next to Gobert, serves as the mobile big next to him. This ultimately allows Gobert to excel at what he's best at. Draymond for sure knows this, but he doesn't seem to care. I mean, Draymond has had so many attacks on Gobert verbally that he took it a step further and literally assaulted him on the court last year.
And then look at Thompson and McDaniels. What is going on with that? Wow. You've got a full-on fracas going on.
Every team has an enforcer, and the Warriors have Draymond.
The reason Draymond went so demonstrably is that Gobert had Clay in a headlock.
Yeah.
In fact, it's gotten to a point where Draymond Green is using his platform to vocalize his hatred for Gobert as a side job. I mean, look at the title of this video. He's not even criticizing the game of Rudy Gobert anymore. He's questioning if Gobert lied about an injury in order not to play. That's questioning his integrity to the game. Not even 20 seconds into this video, he couldn't hide his smile just mentioning France because he knows what he's about to say is, for lack of better words, bullshit. And in his description he says, who's lying? When the only person who could even be possibly implicated to lie is Gobert. Unless of course Draymond himself is lying and he felt like it was a good day to just slander somebody. This example is just to highlight how much the dislike of Gobert is shown through an extreme version of Draymond. But while Draymond is not so subtly subtle, Shaq is confidently straightforward with his dislike towards Gobert. Shaq historically always has something to say about a prominent center in the league. He did so during his career with Bill Walton, he did so after his career with Dwight Howard, and he's continuing to do so to this day since 2020 with Rudy Gobert. Listen here, in 2020, Gobert signed a contract for 5 years, $205 million, and Shaq was at the very least not a fan of it. Before this, he had respect for Gobert, but noted that he would destroy Gobert if they ever played during the same time period. After this, Shaq, for a lack of better words, started hating. This is what he had to say only a month and 2 days after he learned about Gobert's contract extension.
You're trying to talk over my head. I'm not talking about you 6-foot earthlings. I'm talking about 7-footers. I ain't talking about no...
Everybody 7 feet tall can't play basketball.
Listen, if you 7 foot and you make it to this level and you have a specialty like blocking shots or rebounding...
You're not getting $200 million like Rudy.
Bro,
you're not doing what he does. You're not going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm sorry. You're not going to make it 200. You're not going to beat Rudy Gobert. No.
You might. First of all, lower your tone when you're talking about Rudy Gobert.
Kid, talk as loud as you want to.
Stop it with all that.
No, you talk as loud as you want to.
See, for Draymond, his hate stemmed from undeserved credit, but Shaq, it comes from monetary value. You see, Shaq played from around the early 90s to 2011 and made around $290 million, as he was a superstar big. Now, he's seeing a player such as Rudy Gobert with $205 million in just 5 years, despite him not being anywhere near his level, at least in Shaq's eyes. In fact, Gobert is probably on pace to make as much, or dare I say, even more money in his career than Shaq, number-wise. But instead of taking note on how inflation works or understanding the details of the NBA cap value and how that affects the current player's value, Shaq focuses on the numbers like a kid. And like an older brother angry at a little brother being able to get something he had to work for from mom and dad without any effort, his jealousy starts to show. Now, when he senses anything about Rudy Gobert, he's punching down and punking little bro whenever he can.
Oh, 7 foot. Oh, 7'5" guy getting his dunk block. Impressive.
Now, if we go to 2 weeks before recording this video, Shaq was asked via Complex who the worst player in the league was, and he somehow grouped Rudy Gobert with Ben Simmons.
Worst NBA player.
Oh, Rudy Gobert.
Oh my God, I knew he was going to say Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert.
He's worse than Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons is another bum. No, because you know why?
I'm sorry to Rudy Gobert and Ben Simmons.
Because I'm going to tell you what. If you sign a contract for $250, show me $250. It's the reason why I walk funny and why I can't turn my neck and why I can't do it, because I played for my 120. So you got guys like him that the system over, they're making all this money and they can't play. So I don't respect guys like that. Like you know, every time I make these comments, people think I'm hating, but these are facts. You got teachers, you got firemen, you got doctors who have real jobs and don't get paid shit.
And he only made the Simmons and Gobert connection because of, you would guess it, the money. But see, here is the difference. While Simmons is writing off his 5-year, $177 million contract while only playing 51% of his total career games, Gobert has made $30 million more in career earnings while also having major accomplishments. If that's not a hater, then you're gonna have to convince me what is. So to sum everything up, Gobert isn't the type of defender everybody wants him to be. He's viewed as overrated by the fans and players because of it. Players want the awards that have also been gifted to him because they see him as overrated and think that they deserve it instead. And former players are jealous of what he's earned. But what really pulls everything together is that there are more fans that are able to get swept into this hatred due to their biases with these players. Some of it's due to not liking his team he's on, fandoms and rival teams, or the other narratives that people love to spew today just for fun, that people actually take seriously. And this creates the most divisive star we've seen in the past decade.